From the racing capital of the world, Indianapolis, Indiana, welcome to this incredibly special episode of the 7th Gear Over Rev Show, the greatest spectacle in podcasting, presented to you by our great friends and partners at RespectYourPackage.com, makers of these ultra high-end, breathable, premium men's underwear, as well as our good friends at Kraus Meats, purveyors of the finest meats since 1923. Make sure you get yours today. Now, as you can see, sitting next to me are two of the greats in all of motorsports. We are actually sitting here in the Vintage Indy Shops within earshot of the Speedway. And thanks to my great friend here, Mike Lashmett, to allow us to have this interview here. Mike's been on the show before. You may remember him, along with Johnny Parsons Jr. We talked a while back, and we've had a great opportunity to come here and do this show. So thank you very much for that, Mike. We don't even have enough time for all the stories that Mike's got just before we even started recording. But as you can also see to my left, we have a guy that I've been wanting to talk to for a long time, probably since you started as a rookie at the Speedway back in '83. Two-time Indy 500 winner, Al Unser Jr. Al, welcome to the 7th Gear Over Rev Show, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Man, there is way too much to get to in the time that we've got available because time is money. And as we all know, especially these guys know, the month of May, that price of time gets even pricier. But before we get into stuff, and I want to kind of stay focused on the 500 here, and I know you've got a limited amount of time, but for those of you that don't know, Al Unser Jr., at least currently, one of the many things that he's involved with is the pace car driver for the Vintage Indy Series. Mike, how did you guys connect? How did that all start?
Well, the story goes back a long time. I mean, I think I first met Al when you were about 9 or 10.
Yeah,
I was on your dad's crew. Next door at Vels Parnelli Jones, behind us, behind that white wall behind you, Kevin, is the famous Vels Parnelli Jones Racing Team headquarters. So I worked in that building over 50 some years ago, and I was on his dad's car in the last year of Johnny Lightning and then the first year of Viceroy. So that's when we met. But then we were at St. Louis, I think the second year we were down there, and Ari was in our paddock area hanging out with Donnie Beechler, and here comes Al. And so we reconnected, started a conversation. He wanted to know if he could drive Uncle Bobby's car, and that didn't happen.
The last part of that, where you guys finally got together.
It was in St. Louis about 6 years ago.
It was 2019, I think. And you were in our paddock down there, and Ari was there, and Beechler, and Donnie Beechler. John Martin was still alive back then, and they were going to do an autograph session. So I asked Al, I said, would you like to sit in on the autograph session? He said, sure. And he goes, any chance I could drive Uncle Bobby's Olsenite Eagle? And couldn't make that happen, but we did get him in another Eagle, the Genesee Beer Wagon Eagle.
Yeah,
and
remember that car.
So shortly thereafter, I don't know, we went to dinner out in Brownsburg and Dawson's, and I asked him if he'd be interested in driving our pace car, and he said yes. So this will be our 6th straight year.
I was going to say, so now 6 years ago at St. Louis, that's pretty much where the Vintage Indy Series kind of got its footing, right?
It did. That was the first track that we ever went to do an on-track event with IndyCar, and the first year we were there was in 2018, and it was the sole event we did that year, and we had 26 cars there. And we're going back for our 8th year this year.
Wow.
So Al's been there 6 out of the 8 years.
And it's grown to what, 5, 6 events?
Yeah, we did 6 last year. We have 5 major events, 3 with IndyCar this year. We're back at St. Louis the weekend of June 15th, the following weekend, June 22nd, back up to Road America. And then we're with them at Nashville Superspeedway the end of August, and in between Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix again in July, and then back up to M1 Concourse for the American Speed Festival in the very first weekend of October.
Wow,
and cars, and a lot of cars, and single car events and show cars and stuff all over the place.
Well, I tell you what, 7th Gear Over Rev fans, if you get into this area or you're here for the 500, you got to ring this guy up because he's got the coolest, quite frankly, the coolest shit coming in and out of this shop. And I tell you what. But Al, I want to turn to you here since it's, we're within, now it's go time, right? Mm-hmm. We're through the GP, now it's practice for the 500. You've been in so many of them. You had obviously 2 big epic wins. Now I want to think back to your first year in '83, after you came off the Can-Am Championship. When you got here to the Speedway, of course, you growing up in it, you had your dad, you had Uncle Bobby, you probably had a lot of knowledge about this place already. But what was it like for you as a rookie finally getting behind the wheel at this place? Was it everything that you'd been told? Was there stuff that surprised you about it that you thought you were ready?
Not really. I mean, it was, for me, I had been dreaming about, running at Indy since I was 9 years old when I first started racing go-karts. And, and that sort of thing. And so every practice day for me was just a dream come true after a dream come true. You know, we were working at practice. We had pretty good speeds that year. I was really fortunate to be driving an '83 Eagle.
I know, I love that car with the Rome on Wheels sponsorship.
Yep. And Rick Gallus, the car owner out of Albuquerque. And so I was truly fortunate and blessed to have a great team. And we ended up qualifying 5th quick. And so, I mean, it was, practicing, driving an Indy car out on the racetrack was a dream come true. Then qualifying for the show was another dream come true. And then going out there race day and getting in it. And they said, gentlemen, start your engines, and another dream come true. And so it was, each day was a new day to me. And so it wasn't until the basically second year, third year that things started to get normal around the 500 to a driver and to a team. You have to look at it as just another race. It's hard to do that.
I was going to say, easier said than done, isn't it?
It's hard to do that, but eventually that's exactly what it is, and that's how you have to attack it.
Well, it's funny you say that. How you're supposed to treat it like any other race, but I remember having these conversations with like Scott Pruitt and Townsend Bell and those guys, and Scott said it very well. It's like the amount of pressure that you face, especially for qualifying. It's like if that amount of pressure, like if you had to go to the bathroom, you can turn that sucker into a diamond with the amount of pressure.
Yeah,
you're feeling.
There is a lot of pressure, especially to make the show back then. Because we had 70 plus entrants that were vying for 33 spots, and so it was
people were going home.
It was tough, yeah.
So, like I said, I know there's so much that I want to get to, and maybe you'd be kind enough to let us talk another time, but I keep thinking about the 94 year, that second win with that beast, that motor.
Yeah.
There's the great book written about it, which I love, but just the amount of clandestine stuff that Roger had going on with you, and I think PT was your teammate that year.
And
Emerson, like testing in the snow out at like Pocono and all that other stuff, freezing your what's off. But from how early on did you know we got them covered?
Pretty much from the time that Roger first told me about the engine, which was the summer prior, and when I signed with Roger to drive the car in '94, he told me about that engine, and then we first ran it in January at Nazareth.
Oh, Nazareth, that's right.
Is where we ran it, and then the track just wasn't big enough. We had to snowplow the racetrack off because there was 4 feet of snow in Nazareth at that time, but the track just wasn't big enough, and it was specially built for the Indy 500, and so I just said to Roger the best place we could take this would be Michigan. And Roger owned Michigan at the time, and so he goes, there's a bunch of people there and stuff. I go, well, if it can live at Michigan, it'll live at Indy. It's just that simple, okay? And so luckily it was before the day of social media, okay? Had all the same scenarios come to fruition today with social media, it would have never remained a secret. But it remained a secret. That engine definitely remained a secret until we rolled it out on the first day of practice at Indy.
So knowing that you had to plow the track at Nazareth, how much could you really get done? Knowing that
you really couldn't, and that's what I was trying to say to Roger. We can make sure that it runs.
It's kind of like a systems check.
Yeah, basically, and then PT came and tested it there at Nazareth after I did, and he basically said the same thing. We need to take it to a racetrack that's big, that we can open it up and use a lot of throttle all the way around, and so that was Michigan.
So when you rolled off into practice and so forth, did you find yourself having to kind of sandbag to not make it so obvious of what you had?
For
'Cause,
me,
I mean, come on.
Roger was really concerned that if we went too fast, they would reduce the boost, reduce the horsepower in it, and they could do that at any time they wanted. And so anytime we went anywhere near the top 3 speeds of what's going on, Roger would just simply park us. And so before I even knew it, in my practice days, I was parked for the rest of the day because it was going too quick. And, I'd go out and just basically second, third lap I'd run, I'd be P1. And Roger goes, "You're done. Take it to the garage, you're done." And so what Emerson really did the best job at this, he started timing himself on the backstretch. And so he wouldn't, the lap times wouldn't show up to the rest of the teams on the front stretch. And he started doing that. And so he ended up being able to run for the rest of the day because his speeds on the chart were like 5th and 6th quick. And he kept it at that, where on the backstretch, he was P1 by a long ways. And he got his car working better than we did.
So in that year, like you said, you had Emerson, you had PT, big personalities, all 3 of you guys. And as we all know, as drivers, everybody has a different style, even if it's a subtle difference. How did that make it more of a challenge, or was it better with the three of you in terms of setup changes and recommendations? And did you PT took this or you took that?
Yeah, not really. I mean, PT did have a different setup on his car. He drove the car quite a bit different than what Emerson and I did. And so in actuality, Emerson and I, our styles were very much alike, and so we could drive each other's car. It was Paul's style was a little bit different.
So particularly as a driver, my curiosity kind of off of that is to describe your style of driving. I know you said it was similar at Emerson's, but like everybody's got a little different style. Sometimes as they roll into the corner, they want to lay it on the edge of the tire to find that edge early. Some guys like it a little more tail happy to get it to rotate. Others like it, with the nose a little bit more pinned down. Can you kind of describe your style of driving just for the speedway here compared to the other places that you've done?
Sure. My style was a very tight back end. I didn't like the loose at all in the car, and neither did Emerson. PT liked his car to rotate quite a bit, and so on. So Danny Sullivan liked his nose pinned. Bobby Rahal was a teammate of mine. Him and I drove the same style, where we liked the back end locked down and so on. And so it was for 500 miles around Indy, you definitely want that back end locked down. So.
Well, yeah, absolutely, because it could happen in a heartbeat, just like that year with Emerson. Now, so Mike, in all your years of being here and being around all these other great teams all the way back through Parnelli, have you ever seen a car and motor combination as dominant as that motor that year?
No, I haven't. The turbine, now you took the words out of my mouth. I would say that's, pre-me, but by a few years anyway. But I'd say the 68 Lotus turbines, Parnelli's turbine in 67, they were dominant cars. They were way ahead technology-wise. It's a prime example of somebody thinking outside the box, which Granatelli and Chapman did with the Lotus wedges, and which Roger and Mercedes did with the Beast motor and the PC23. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it had been in the rule book. That engine was in the rule book for many years. As a matter of fact, it was Tony George who actually told me in the late 80s about this engine, that there's an engine, a V8 engine that's a single cam pushrod engine that is allowed the power, and it could produce a whole lot of power, but no one would build it. And so finally, it took Roger and Ilmore to finally commit to building that engine, and so they did. It had been in the rule book.
It was going way back to USAC. There was always a stock block rule.
Right.
Most people that pursued that course of engine, it was usually a small block Chevy.
Well, right. Think back to Roger.
Turbo or not normally aspirated.
V6 is what they
You're right. One of the people that changed it up a little bit was Dan Gurney in 68 and 69 with a stock block Ford with the Gurney Westlake heads, normally aspirated. And he finished second 2 years in a row with that motor. But a lot of those people pursued that back in that era, the Chevy people, because they couldn't afford an off-year or Ford 4-cam engine. So it was a cheaper way to go. Another classic example of that was Smokey Unique in 73 he had a brand new Eagle, and he had a dual turbocharged stock block Chevy V8 in it. But the problem was you couldn't make, those motors did okay at like Trenton and Milwaukee and Phoenix shorter tracks. You got here to the Speedway, I mean, the distance, how much the length of the straightaways, I mean, you're really wrapping that thing out there and almost outer space, yeah. And so they just wouldn't live, they'd blow up and they'd lose the motors. I mean, nobody ever qualified with them except Gurney and Unique, really.
Gotcha. So in all your years at the Speedway, of course, you had the 94, the dominant year, 92 you won. Was there a year where you felt like you had the car that should have been yours that wasn't your year, that you didn't win, when you felt like I should have won that one?
89.
Well, minus the 89.
89. No, there was, I had the car to compete for the win in my second year back here in 84, and waterline broke. Not again. I didn't have a car on race day again to compete for the win until 89, and so on. And so, as a matter of fact, how things work at the Speedway in 92, the morning of the race, I didn't have a car to compete to win in 92. It just, the way things fell, how cold it was and all that, and the amount of crashes that were going on. And then, of course, Michael had everybody covered, and his car breaks with, 12 to go, something like that. And so, and then we were, going for the win. And so you never know at Indy. It like Dad in 87, he was second weekend qualifier.
Taking a show car out of the hotel lobby.
Taking a show car out of Reading. Yeah, I mean, you just never know. And that's the beauty of the Indy 500 is you just never know.
Fair point. Now, speaking of that 92 race, a good friend of mine and a friend of the show, pulsed there that year, Roberto Guerrero. At the time, it was a track record. He said, he's like, the car was so good, my grandmother could have drove that car.
Right.
Is that really the case, like with the Beast or any of those?
Yeah,
is that good?
When they're working, they're a pleasure to drive. I wouldn't say easy to drive, but they don't scare you. They don't do anything that kind of surprises you and that sort of thing, where everything is nice and smooth and predictable. And that's the kind of car you need to be safe at Indy. Yeah.
So now let's go to the flip side of that. So that was maybe the easiest, one of the best cars. What was probably the worst car that you ever had?
87 March.
Those were not great
that
cars.
Thing was lethal. Yeah, I mean, it was so unpredictable all during practice, the 2 weeks of practice, because I was a second weekend qualifier that year, and it was lethal. Even Ray Hall, I came in and was going to practice, and Ray Hall, he wasn't my teammate at the time, and I walked up to him in morning of, right before we get in the cars, he looked at me and he goes, "Al, you're white as a ghost." I go, "I know, I hate driving this car. It's just one of those years that it was just so unpredictable and so on," which came into effect that's why Dad won the race, because he was in an 86 March. He wasn't in a new one.
And that was one of my favorite years of Marches with that pyramid roll hoop on it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those were awesome cars. So I think back, and maybe this was the case when it happened, but you, aside from the 2 wins and being part of that great Unser family legacy, you had some of the greatest quotes ever. The first of which everybody's heard. You just don't know what Indy means. But probably my more favorite one is when you said, you were asked about your dad, and it's like, "Yep, my dad taught me everything I know. He just didn't teach me everything he knows."
Which is still the case.
Well, that was kind of where I was going with that. Do you feel like you've kind of gotten to that point now?
No. Dad, rest his soul. He definitely taught me everything that I knew, but even to his dying day, he still was an extremely smart man, and I strive to be just like him. So.
Wow, that's absolutely a worthy goal, and who better to learn from?
Yep.
I mean, come on, one of only four-time winners. You guys, it's so cool to be able to sit here and hear firsthand from you. So when those things came out of your mouth, I'm sure at the time it was just, you were in the moment, right? Especially like in Victory Lane in 92, but it's like, did it, like once the rush of having won the race and all of that kind of wore off, did you think to yourself like, wow, that was pretty epic? Has it taken
for sure? No,
the benefit of time?
It took a while for it to even sink in and that sort of thing, and so yeah, I mean, for me, it was just so much pressure off of me because of Dad's success and Uncle Bobby's success, and I had been trying for 10 years and hadn't done it yet, and came so close in '89 and that sort of thing. I was at the beginning to think that I was never going to win here. And then God saw that it happened. So,
and that's actually a really good point that I don't think people really talk about that much. It's like knowing that your dad won 4 and Bobby won all his. It's like, did that pressure of having to live up to that Unser family name really kind of?
No, not really. I didn't really feel that outside of. I put my own pressure on me to be successful at Indy. It was, and my dad had a lot to do with that. That when I was 16 and first started driving professionally in sprint cars, Dad noticed the press were trying to compare us a lot, and he noticed it, and so he took me and just said to me that he didn't care what I did for a living. I could be a doctor, lawyer, whatever I wanted to be for a living. The only thing he cared about is that I try my best. And as long as I try my best, then the best will come back to me. And when my dad told me that, it just took all that pressure off of me from the outside.
Sure.
To be like him or compare to him and so on. And then I just put my own pressure on myself to be successful in Indy because it's childhood dream.
Yeah, and I think any driver worth his salt. Mm-hmm. If you're not putting pressure on yourself, then you're not serious.
That's right.
So, all right, now let's get down to brass tacks here. All right, so you've had all kinds of teammates over the years. You had Bobby, you had Mo, you had PT. Who's the best teammate that you ever had, in whether it was Gallus, Penske, anywhere else?
I think the one that I got along most with was Bobby Rahal. We had similar driving styles, and we helped each other. We didn't. We offered information and to make the other driver, the team itself as a whole, be better. And it was really because of Bobby. I went to his setups quite a lot, and they were open. It was an open book, and so when he was my teammate for the very first time. That first year, I won the championship, and a lot of the races I was on his setup. So yeah, it was Bobby helping me, and then it was reciprocal. I would help him in the times that I was quicker and so on. We would talk about it, and it was good. And so the other teammates, Emerson would be next to that. We talked a lot and genuinely tried to help each other a lot, and those are about the only two.
Okay, so then who is your least favorite teammate?
Well,
you can speak in code if you want. It's
the
okay.
one and only PT. I mean,
I had a feeling.
He took me out of some races and that sort of thing, and yeah, I mean, honestly, genuinely, off the racetrack, Paul and I got along great. It was on the racetrack that he would do things that would kind of surprise you, and
not PT.
When you're running over 200 miles an hour, surprises are not a good thing.
Absolutely. So obviously you follow the current IndyCar series. You're out at Long Beach winning yet something else, King of the Beach, as if you don't have enough. Do you have enough walls in your place to hang all your trophies?
All of our stuff are at the Museum of American Speed in Lincoln, Nebraska now. So it'd be great if whoever wants to see Uncle Bobby's, my dad's, and my stuff, that would be the place to go.
That's actually a good call. We were just talking about that before we went on air. But now with the current IndyCar series, we're looking at a historic start to the year. Palou winning 4 out of 5. I mean, he's looking all but untouchable right now. So you having been closer to it than any of us here in this room, the depth of talent in the IndyCar series is deeper than it's ever been.
Yes.
All the way from top to
Absolutely.
bottom, right?
Absolutely.
So how is it that you get one car driver combination that is far and away head and shoulders above the rest, at least for now?
Yeah, my dad would just simply say, when you're hot, and when you're not, you're not. Okay, and right now, Palou and the 10 car, whatever they're doing, it's the right decision, and it's being done, and things are going their way. And in IndyCar, especially these days, when you've got everyone driving the same car, same tires, basically same engines, all that kind of stuff, it's so equalized, and so it goes to, they're working hard, they're doing everything in preparation to make your own luck, and I think that's what they're doing. They're doing a better job at that than any of the other teams out there, and the luck is coming their way, and so on. So there's not lap cars spinning out in front of him and taking him out. Okay, right. I mean but it is so competitive that I hope they keep doing what they're doing, because what they're doing is right, and as long as they don't start changing things up to gain a bigger advantage, which is a commonality of what teams do, because you're always striving to be better and better and better, that doesn't take their formula and mess it up.
Gotcha. So, when we think about that stuff, and now we're here at the Speedway for the 500, the first 500 with the hybrid motors. At the open test a couple weeks ago, there were probably a handful of guys that weren't real crazy about how the center of pressure has changed, how the balance has changed with that extra weight in the rear. Do you think that's going to? Do you think guys are going to kind of figure it out this week of practice going into qualifying? Do you think that's going to change things in terms of the race itself? Do you think it'll be a little bit more competitive? Do you think it'll be a little less competitive?
I think it'll be, excuse me, I think it'll be the same as it has been in the past 5 or 6 years. The cars are so aero dominant, that they get only so close to each other, and that's it, and they got to run the laps off and so on. Strategies are going to come down to the pit stops and so on, and that's all going to remain the same. I think their reliability of the hybrid is gotten better and is there now. The top teams, they're the ones that are going to figure it out the best. The teams that are running the most cars. You've got Andretti running 4 or 5 cars. You've got Penske running 3 cars. You've got Ganassi running 4 cars, and so those teams right there, they're the ones that are going to use different setups and collect different data as practice goes on, and the air temperatures change, the humidity changes, what does that do to the car, all that kind of stuff, and how it's getting through the corner, and so those teams that have the most data collecting capability are the ones that are going to be the best.
And I think that's kind of a lot the case. So we've seen, and I just don't see it changing that much this year, it's kind of like the Habs, the Penskes, the Ganassis, the Andrettis are still going to be at the sharper end of the stick, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And those middle teams, whether it's Dreyer and Reinbold, Dale Coyne, or even Prema, as good as they've been trying to show so far, I think that's kind of going to be the status quo, maybe with some moderate gains, so to speak.
Could be, but then there's Myers Shank Racing with Alio that popped in and won his 4th. Okay,
and Rosenquist is looking pretty good.
Hey, yeah, I mean, so
and then there's McLaren.
You never know at Indy. You just never know at Indy
because you just don't know what Indy means.
That's
right. All right, so fellas, I know we're kind of closing in on a hard stop here. So as we get ready to throw the checkered flag Al, tell us, I mean, what's life like for Al Unser Jr. these days? What do you got going on?
It's great. It's truly blessed. I get to hang out with Mike and all the vintage Indy car owners. They're always trying to get me to drive their car, but I tell them I'm committed to Mike in the base car and so on. And so, yeah, I mean, life is really good. I'm married to a beautiful lady, Norma, and yeah, all is well.
That's fantastic. I'm happy to hear that.
My kids are healthy. It's all good.
Awesome. Mike, what about you? I know you got a lot going on. You got people coming in and out of here. You got parties going on. It's like Vintage Indies be like 500 party central, I think, here.
Yeah, crazy time of the year. We're in this new building since October. A lot of people want to come and visit, and they just kind of show up, pop in, and we're doing some events. The month of May, we're doing a book signing with for the new Foyt book that Art Gardner did. That's on the afternoon of the 21st. It's open to the public from 4 to 6. We have a breakfast here the Saturday morning before the 500 with our watch sponsor, Omo Legato, and just doing all kinds of different things. And we're doing a private night before the 500 party for the Johnny Parsons family, celebrating the 75th anniversary of their father's win at Indy, that epic win, and that Frank Curtis car sponsored by Wins and Justice Brothers. And you know, we have a lot going on. It's a lot of fun. We've got cars all over town. 6 cars right now over at PRI in the lobby. We've got Eddie Cheever's 500 winning Dallara at Dallara in the lobby with the Dallara EXP pace car that Al's going to be driving this summer. And folks can't see it off camera. We've got Parnelli Jones's Fight Plumbing sprint car sitting in front of us, and that's going down to the Columbia Club's lobby tonight through the month of May. So yeah, we're all over the place.
Wow.
Having a lot of fun.
Well, needless to say, this is a great place to be if you're an Indy 500 fan, if you're an Al Unser Jr. fan, if you're a Vintage Indy fan. This is the place to be. So, guys, Mike, again, thank you for allowing us to have this interview here at your shop today. Al, it's been a great pleasure and an honor to sit here and have a chat with you. Hopefully we can do it again if schedules allow. And 7th Year Over Rev fans, thanks for tuning in for this extra special episode. Be sure that you go ahead and support our great partners at respectyourpackage.com, makers of those great high-end breathable men's underwear, as well as Kraus Meats, your finest in all your meat products since 1923. Be sure that you like the show, you share it with your friends, and smash the damn subscribe button. That is 7th Year Over Rev, the greatest spectacle in podcasting. See you.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Super.
man.
Good.
Thanks. Great job.
Nice.
We are good. Thank you, sir.
We're good. You're welcome. Thank you.
You bet.
Good job.
Okay.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.